For the regular meeting of the Township of Hamilton, Monday, December 3rd, 2018. Please stand for the flag salute. John?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City on January the 5th, 2018, and the Atlantic County Record on January the 10th, 2018. Mr. Gishard, Mr. Kurtz.
Here.
Mrs. Link.
Here.
Mr. Silva.
Here.
Mayor Schenker.
Here. We have a moment of silence for private reflection, and please keep in your thoughts and prayers Committeeman Rodney Gishard, who's not here tonight due to the fact that he is taken ill. Thank you. We'll move right into the guest presentations. We have the annual report from the Seniors Advisory Committee. Diane Fox. Hello, Diane.
Hi, Diane Fox, Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. Mr. Mayor, Township Committee, thank you for your support this year.
Di, could you speak into the mic a little bit?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Is it on?
Sounds like it is.
I don't hear it.
Just tap it.
Better?
It's on.
Yeah.
It's on.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank the committee for your support this year, and a shout out to Rodney, who's always been at our meetings, and no matter what we ask for, he delivers the day after. Special thank you to our committee members, our co-chair, and my right-hand man, Bill Schumart, or Schmidt, Vi Corbo, Ruth Zahn, who we're losing this year, Nancy Gilmore, and Pat Johnson. Each and every one of these members brings an expertise to the committee, and their work that they do is just phenomenal. This year wasn't a year of maybe we did that many events, but what we did do was make connections that we need. So this year we had 2 speaker series. The first was at the library, and it just so happened that it was the same day the construction happened on Main Street. So it was just the committee members that attended that speaker series. The second one was held at Woodview, and it was received well. We attended the hometown celebration. We had our 3rd annual food drive there. We attended National Night Out. We had our 3rd annual health fair at the Hamilton Mall, which will continue. This year it was bigger. The first year we had 17 vendors. This year we had 27. And we're already talking to them about moving where we hold it. Maybe we're going to move it upstairs to have more room, because we definitely need more room. And first year we had about 50 attend, and this year we were well over 50. We think we were close to 80 individuals who attended the health fair. During the National Night Out, Bill Schmidt and I met with the superintendent of Hamilton Township Schools. We just happened to be right, his table was next to ours, Frank Vogel. And he attended one of our meetings. He came in and explained the school bond that was up for voting. And while he was there, I talked to him about an intergenerational program with the schools, which we've been trying to hold. We tried to do that with Oakcrest. I know it'll take a while, but it hasn't worked out yet. But it seems Mr. Vogel is going to make it happen. And I've already gotten a call from Cliff Melder, and we're going to talk about, in February, starting senior computer classes at the Hess School, which we're really excited about. Our food drive will be annual, and we will make it the Pam Scott annual food drive. Pam, we lost this year, and we thought we'd like to do that in honor of her. Vi Corbo holds the food drive every year, and she does a great job. During that food drive, she met with the pastor of the Methodist Church and talked to him, because she talks a lot. And he came to our meetings, and we are now going to hold all of our meetings, dinners, and speaker series at the Methodist Church. We've been trying to get one spot, one place for the seniors to come to, so that they'll be familiar with it. So in March, we're going to have a dinner, and we're going to invite the seniors in the township and we're going to feed them dinner, and then we're going to ask them what their needs are. Because most of our events, we don't hear that much what the seniors want or what they need, so we think this is a good starting point. We're also going to hold a game day there. This is all tentative, but we've been looking to hold game days because the seniors have come to us to say, where's our building? We want our building back. And I know one of the things that they did at the building was have games. They played games, so we're going to start that. The seniors' concerns that we hear are, one, they don't have their building, so we'll do the best we can with that. Senior housing. So this year we're going to invite the committee to one of our meetings and talk to you about senior housing to see where we can go with that. And we attended the St. Vincent de Paul Thanksgiving luncheon for seniors. That luncheon is where I hear the needs for seniors. This year, I had a handful of seniors come to me and say, my utilities are about ready to be turned off. Can you help me? So we do have information for that, and we hand it out, and then I got phone calls back. These seniors make $150 to $200 more than what this program, to qualify for this program. So that's something that we'd like to look into. Maybe it isn't the township that can help us with that.
It's
or
a
maybe
county
it's the-
program?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Maybe we need to talk to somebody about that.
yes, yeah. And I think we're going to find that more and more.
Okay.
So that's what we did this year. We're looking forward to 2019. And I hope you attend the meeting. We're looking to maybe February, invite everyone, the township committee to our meeting and talk to you about the housing.
Okay.
Oh, we're also going to look into grant writing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you,
You
Diane, thank you.
guys do a great
Diane,
job.
that's super. That was our original intention.
Move on to item B, the ACUA budget presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Rick Dovey. I'm the president of the ACUA. With me tonight is Linda Bazemore, Vice President of Finance and Administration, CFO, and Gary Conover, who is the Director of Solid Waste Operations. You have in front of you, I think, three, well, actually maybe four documents. One is our annual report card that summarizes the tip fees and the amount of tonnages and shows the recycling rate for the last year. Then there are two letters that were sent to Michael and the Township concerning our collection contracts. We collect both yard waste and recycling for the Township. On behalf of the Township, the yard waste collection is for certain set-aside areas that are developed. And in both of those cases, the cost of those collection contracts will go up 1.64%, and the recycling contracts 1.67 based on the CPI in August, and the yard waste contract is tied to October, so the CPI was 1.64. So the exact numbers that you can use for budgeting purposes are in there. And then on the tip fees for trash that is collected on behalf of the Township by your contractor Waste Management and brought to the ACUA and billed to the Township, there will be no tip fee increase. And as you can see, this would be the fourth year in a row that there's no increase. So $62.20 is the rate for municipalities in Atlantic County. And it's projected that this year, in 2018, your charge will be $620,000, which is just slightly higher than about $5,000 more than the year before. And that's really due to more other waste, which means the Public Works Department or somebody on behalf of the Township has brought in bulky waste or C&D waste. Separately, but not the tonnages for municipal trash collected from homes is just up about 10 tons, so that's pretty good. Your recycling is up, is down about 100 tons, and your yard waste is up about 50 tons or 40 tons. So overall, your recycling rate almost remains the same at 30%. And you can see in the chart on the bottom, pretty much Hamilton Township has been very consistent in the recycling rate over the last few years. So we're happy to serve you. In a week, I think, Steve, we'll be meeting with the Hamilton Township MUA to go over our wastewater rates and projections for on the sewer end. There is no rate increase projected there either. So the formula works differently based on the flows. So anyway, it's been a pretty good year at the ACUA. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the committee?
How do we compare to other communities like Atlantic City or Pleasantville?
Much better.
Much better?
Yes.
From where-
There are municipalities that have a higher recycling rate, which is really driven by yard waste. So I think for regular residential recycling, Hamilton Township performs pretty well. Remember, this is not all of the recycling that happens in the municipality. There are other large generators of commercial recycling that come from the malls and the shopping centers. And that is reported to your recycling coordinator, and you get credit for that. But these are the tons that actually come to the ACUA. So they're not required to bring recycling to us. So towns like, let's say, Linwood or Northfield or Absecon, they would have a higher recycling rate, but they have yard waste collection municipality-wide. Every home receives that. Yours is just, I'm going to say, maybe 15–20% of the residents are covered by the yard waste collection. And it's not necessary in a large municipality with large properties. It's not necessary.
Rick, does the size of our township have any impact on that? When
Well,
considered the
if you
towns
think
that
about
are...
it, if you live on a large property, you don't have to rake your
right.
leaves out
The woods become
to
our
the
best
curb
friend.
and become the responsibility of the municipality. You can rake it somewhere or put it
Can you differentiate between the closer units, like in Mays Landing, et cetera, in terms for recycling versus the ones that are further out, like in Lauradale and out in Weymouth and Mizpah?
I think we find that the township as a whole is very consistent in recycling. Participation rates are strong throughout the township.
Good.
I think they've been good. Now, since we are, just before I sort of break, if there are no other questions, we also handed out some updated information on what's recyclable. There has been a sort of worldwide impact caused by China limiting the amount of recycling commodities that they take. Basically, they had been taking up until the beginning of this year 60% of the plastics and paper in the world. It's now 1%. So there's been a dramatic shift in the whole worldwide. So we have to be more vigilant about making sure what people put in their recycling is clean and not contaminated by the materials that should not be in there. Before we could sort of get away with it because the contamination rates could still be absorbed by the market higher. That's not going to happen anymore. And so we're going to embark on a very comprehensive program over all of next year, but we'll start real soon by reiterating about taking caps off. That keeps moisture out of the recycling, and moisture is a contaminant. Where pizza boxes used to be fine, pizza boxes aren't anymore because too many people leave the oily, greasy ones in there, and that's, again, a contamination. Also attracts vermin. So it deteriorates. So plastic bags are a big contamination. We forever have said don't put plastic bags in your recycling. People actually put their recycling in plastic bags and put it out. Plastic bags are just terrible in the system. the best way to recycle plastic bags is to take them back to the supermarket and they can be recycled there. But they become a litter problem in collection, and they also become an operational issue at the recycling processing facility. They'll have to stop maybe 3 or 4 times a day, stop all the machinery, clean out all the plastic bags as it jams up the machinery and so forth, so it cuts down on efficiency. So we'll be looking to work with your staff and the public to improve recycling, making sure people are putting out the proper stuff and not the improper stuff going forward.
I have a question about Christmas lights. All these Christmas lights don't work, and they throw them. Do they throw them in the recycle?
Many, well, I wouldn't say many, but enough people do. Yes, they put hoses, they put lights, string lights, glassware. I mean, that's not, you know, a drinking glass is not appropriate to put in. It's a different kind of glass. It shouldn't be put in. People put aluminum, aluminum cans are fine for beverage, but not aluminum pie plates and so forth. That's contamination.
Now, the lids on top of the water bottles,
That should go in the trash.
the lids.
The lids, yes.
I know a school down in Margate that collected the lids. So
There are a
that was
number
one
of
of their,
efforts. The
to prevent the
problem
lids.
with the lids, when they do come, and they do come, they get separated out, but they're mixed in with other trash, and it's not safe to pick it out and separate it.
So they should
We
just-
must get a request every other week for some group that is raising money for caps. Can't we come in and once they come and look and we go, you're going to go in there and in that pile and remove caps? It's not safe.
Yeah, I think they had the students, bring in caps to the school.
That's the best way, yeah. Actually, the theater in Summers Point raised money. The community theater that reopened in Summers Point had a big cap drive for part of their capital program just recently.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay?
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
All right. Merry
Appreciate you
Christmas,
coming out.
Happy New Year. Good to see you all. If you have any issues, feel free to call us. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I don't believe we had any additions or deletions, so we'll move on to number 2, early public comment on the agenda items, excluding items listed for public hearings. Mike?
Bruce Drive, 3A.
Okay. Can't put
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just some concerns on the presentation from the MUA tonight. I noticed, obviously, that it was on the agenda tonight, and there was a report from August to Township Committee on the proposed move from Kenskull Avenue to Underhill Park, or near the service yard. My concern with moving from that location to the other are threefold. First, in the Mays Landing neighborhood plan to retain businesses in the middle of town, I think you should be concerned about leaving that site, which is a residential, it's in an R9 zone. For that to be reoccupied, that would have to be either a residence, which I don't necessarily think that would be desirable by anybody to move in as a residence. If it needs to be a commercial building, it would need a use variance, and the MUA in their report indicates that it would take more than $1 million, or up close to $1 million to rehabilitate to be used again. The other thing is moving it from that site to the service yard on Old Egg Harbor Road. That area is already congested, and to move that over there would, there doesn't need any more congestion or traffic on Old Egg Harbor Road. There was they indicated a feasibility study in that report to you. I was interested. I opened the feasibility study, and there really wasn't one available. So I don't believe that the MUA really had the necessary information to make that decision. So I think there's a lot of questions or concerns with taking a building that is occupied moving it from Mays Landing and moving it over to Old Egg Harbor Road, which will be a detriment in both. And that is also on Old Egg Harbor Road, a growth moderate zone, which is against our master plan, which would require, I believe, a use variance to build there. So there's a lot of concerns about that move, and I think you should ask some of the questions or concerns that I've had. So thank you.
Thank you. That's it? All right, we'll move on to 3, discussions. Formal actions may be taken. A, new HTMUA building, Steve Blankenship. Our executive director is going to speak on this.
Steve Blankenship, Executive Director of the Hamilton Township MUA. I also have Frank Tomasello, the Chair of the MUA, here tonight. Basically, I was asked to come, I guess, to talk a little bit about this project. So I have a little bit of diagrams, but basically I'm here at your request, and I'm prepared to answer any questions, or if you just want me to give a small presentation, I'll be happy to do that also.
Well, if you could give us a little presentation, that would be nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
The first is basically a Google Earth shot of the existing operations facility. So you can see one of the things that we've done in the past is we've always tried to use our assets. I guess I can take this up. We've always tried to use our assets, reuse them. So we had an old equalization tank that we made into a maintenance facility. We had an old RBC tank that we've put a fabric building over to house our equipment. And then basically we have our front building, which was part of the original wastewater treatment plant that was built there in the 60s and then upgraded in the 80s. And then basically from 88 to 92, they did a project where they wound up putting in a pump station, and now our wastewater is no longer treated by us, but it's treated by ACUA. Mm-hmm. So, as was mentioned, the building on Ken Skull Avenue is, as noted, is in a residential neighborhood. That was constructed at a time back in early 80s, while this was still an operating plant. So probably at the time, had that not been an operating plant, they probably wouldn't have divided that facility up. From a management point of view, it's always better to have everybody in the same location. So going forward, we were going to have to spend money. So as was noted, we did hire an architect. We asked the architect to look at a couple of options, and it was narrowed down to 2 options. One, do we fix the property on Ken Skull Avenue, which is, we call the administrative side, and then fix the front building over in the operations area, because that's not being fully utilized at this point. Or should we go ahead and relocate everything over to Old Egg Harbor? The price tags came in, it was just a little bit more expensive to come over to Old Egg Harbor Road. But in the long run, I think from a managerial point of view and from some of the operational efficiencies that we'll have over time, that would probably more than pay for itself. Just like anything else, we need to plan. Things are getting older. And again, we know we don't have parking, as it was noted. It's in a residential area. If we have any kind of people come to our meetings, there is no parking for anybody there. So that was also one of our concerns. The other thing is more and more of our people are paying electronically. So they're using their internet banking or whatnot to go ahead and send their payments in. And we've seen that where we've seen a decline in the number of people coming to drop off to pay their bills. So we probably get around, on average, probably somewhere around 700 people come through on a monthly basis, but usually they drive. We tend to get maybe 10 to 15 walkers that are from that neighborhood. But for the most part, the questions that we've asked, most people are just coming in, dropping off, and taking off. One of the things by going out here too, it looks like we may be able to get a loan through the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust. Since this was an old wastewater treatment plant, there is funding available on the clean water side that would allow us to get a 20-year loan at roughly 75%, 0% interest, and the other 25% at market rate, which would probably come out to a blended rate of about 1%. And we've done this for other projects that we've done. And so that's a way where, that way we're protecting the current ratepayers, and then future ratepayers would also help pay for that. So some of that we would probably pay some cash, and some of it, the bulk of it, we would borrow to finance the project.
Steve, exactly where will you place the new facility?
So basically, I have like a little diagram. So here's the existing front building. I call it the Mickey Mouse building now because it's got the ears on it. But basically, we're proposing to put a roughly just under a 3,700 square foot addition off to the back of that. We would, currently we have parking here, so we have space to put new parking in, and employee parking. This was the fabric building that we covered, and then basically the equalization tank, or the maintenance, the EQ building that we call it, that would be farther in the back. So we feel this would provide ADA compliance easier because we can put spots up here for people that are handicapped and need that, whereas we don't have that at the current facility. And basically, one of the other things, a lot of our traffic is during the day. There is a lot of traffic there, but this is a place that would be convenient. We have a lot of people through town that come and use the sports facilities that are there, so that would be a convenience to them to drop that off. From an economics point of view, we take, that's one of our key missions as the MUA, is to help be an economic driver. So what does that really mean? That means we want to make sure that we have adequate water, adequate sewer capacity, so we can service any people that are trying to come in. At the same time, our rates are very reasonable, and we have put this in our rate study. We've plugged this into our capital plan, and we've planned on basically borrowing $2 million at 2% over 20 years, and we find that that would be very reasonable and would be, basically, if you look, it comes out, if you need, it would probably be about 10 cents a month for somebody to pay on both water and wastewater side. So,
You mean as an increase to the ratepayers?
Well, basically, we've been increasing our rates roughly 25 cents on the water and wastewater side, so 50 cents a month over the last couple years, trying to basically keep our rates good, but at the same time making investments. As in the report that we did on the special meeting that you had, we talked about the Water Quality Accountability Act. So there's other things that we have to do that we're starting to do. So we take that very seriously, and again, we think this is a good investment. As we know, interest rates are starting to rise, so this would be an opportunity to take advantage of a program that's currently available, and so that's kind of where we're at.
Drive-in window?
Pardon?
You plan on a drive-in window?
No, not at this point, not yet.
You
no.
talked about one for years.
Yeah.
The need wouldn't be that great then, right?
No, I don't think so, not at this time.
Steve, I had a question.
Sure.
You had mentioned two options. The first option is fix the old building. Second option is build a new location out there on Old Lake Harbor Road. The possible third option, I would think, would be to see if there's another location that would be suitable for the people who are used to paying right here in town, easy accessible for them, where they don't have to go out there. One of my thoughts were something like the Bank of America building, which was available at a very good, it could have been a bid put in on that. It has a drive-in facility. It has offices upstairs, but I'm sure that an elevator could have been put in there. I just was wondering if there was any other...
Well, basically, I think, it's a good point. Basically, the two options, if I can reiterate again, were to fix the Ken Skull property and the property on Old Lake Harbor. So it was a combination. That was the first option. The second option was to relocate everything to the Old Lake Harbor facility. So I just want to clarify that for a minute. Part of that too was that we felt that it was mentioned about the bank, but that's an existing rateable. And if we were to go for something like that, there's still going to be a large cost associated with that. And then we would be taking that rateable off the tax rolls. And that's something that we felt that wouldn't be prudent. What we looked at is if we sell the building on Ken Skull, we have a couple options there. We can try to sell it, and hopefully maybe somebody that's a commercial or business use might want to use that. We could demolish the building and sell it as a residential lot, since it is in a residential neighborhood. Or if you're really looking at what you can do on Main Street, we've talked about possibly demolishing that building and talking to the township about putting a little parking facility there. Because one of your complaints, it seems in the past, has been that there's not adequate parking on that section of Main Street.
What's your time frame on this, Steve?
Well, basically, we still need to, we're doing some preliminary work. We would need to go to Pinelands, and then we would need to come before the planning board. This type of project does not require variance. We're a government entity. We're allowed to go in any area of the township. And basically, I didn't bring the drawing, but if you looked at what was there before when it was a treatment plant, there was a lot more development at that time. So we would like to do that, and once we have that, then we would go ahead and apply to the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust. Basically, we would like to try to get that squared away by June and get in the financing. Basically, if they approve us for financing, they will float us a 0% loan, bridge loan, until we would get permanent financing. So then, once we have that underway, then we would go ahead and move forward and go out to bid. So we're probably looking at about an 18-month process, plus or minus, from start to finish.
Will this reduce the amount of water, or, I mean, the cost? Or are we going to look at a lot of increase because we're putting out $2
Well,
million?
as I said before, it's probably about 10 cents a month for a combined user for water and sewer.
For infinitum, or?
For 20 years is what the loan would be.
Okay. So people on a budget,
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we can't spend money.
Increase.
The money has to be spent to maintain the facilities one way or the other. So, as was noted before, we did get an estimate. If we were to fix both buildings, we were looking at $2 million anyhow. So either way, there's a cost to maintain your facilities. You've gone through this with some of the facilities that you had to do on the rec fields and over at the Public Works building. You know exactly what we're going through. So, again, it's all about, we're stewards of these assets. So we're trying to do the best that we can at the lowest cost that we can while providing a quality product and service to our ratepayers.
how would you, what specific items would you do to the old facility? Put new roof on, doing new treatment?
Well, basically, inside Ken Skull, there wouldn't be any treatment. There's no treatment here. This would be mostly office space, a meeting space, and storage space. In the existing Ken Skull building, that layout no longer works. So we'd have to totally redo the inside plus whatever else on the exterior. Basically, the heating system's from 1983. The windows are original. As I said, the layout's bad. The floor would need to be abated. We already ran into that a little bit with a mold issue that we had. So there's a lot of work there. On the other side, basically, we would still have to do a lot of work to that building. That building was, again, part of a treatment plant, so we need to do some work there. So, as I said, when we looked at this, the professionals that we hired and basically reported back to us, the board decided that it made sense to spend a little bit more money and go ahead and combine everyone at that facility. Because what we're finding is most of the people are working at this facility already. As the executive director, I spend a lot of time there because basically with the asset managements that we're doing and the interface with the people, that's where I interface with more of the people. So really what we have is just more a small administrative footprint at the other building. And typically if we were to hold a meeting there, we can still do that. The other thing too is just like you had to, when you put the 911 communications in, you had to bulletproof the walls. We don't have that. We would need to do that at either facility. It's a little easier to do at this facility because of the way we can put the new walls in at.
Right.
Basically, there's a lot of little things that add up. And unfortunately, as a government entity, it's sometimes hard for us to move forward, but we feel that this is the best way, and the board felt that that was the best way after we weighed everything out.
Long range, Steve, beside the building, is there ever any plans to extend the water to some areas? Has it been thought of?
Well, I think it would depend on what areas that you were talking about.
Well,
because
we have
obviously,
existing stuff, and then there's other adjoining areas that don't have it.
I mean, typically, the philosophy at the MUA is that current ratepayers really don't pay for expansion. That if somebody wants to come in, they have to pay those expansion costs. Typically, if it's like a new
Subdivision.
developed neighborhood,
Yeah.
you're paying for that as part of the purchase price of your building.
Right.
But we've had people come in and we've explained that to them because again, we don't, we think it's fair to the existing ratepayers. So typically, the only times that we do any time of work is if from an operational point of view, we have a missing piece that if we can connect, that makes sense operationally, then we'll try to go ahead and do that. But typically, if it's an expansion, we're either looking at a developer or somebody to pay who wants that expansion.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Steve, my only concern is this, we get a lot of complaints about the traffic on that road, how hard it is to get out of that road onto Route 40. And I'm concerned, my concern is that this is going to add to that problem. Have you done any kind of study into that, what the impact would be?
We haven't done a formal study, but I would say that during the day, that's probably going to be the lesser part. Typically where you find that there's a problem getting in and out of there is either in the morning when people are going to work,
Right.
or when they're coming home from work. And then, like I said, we're typically open between 8 and 4:30, so the public would be coming between those hours. And typically most of the people that are coming are there even within a smaller confine of hours than what I just mentioned.
Okay.
So while yes, there's probably going to be some additional people, I don't know that that's really going to, off the top of my head, I don't think that that's a concern, but I don't know that we're really adding to the peak problem times.
All right.
That would be something, we come to the planning board, I'm sure we'll have something at that point to talk about. So.
Yeah, there's just been already, we've heard a lot about that intersection there, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it because of the
Yeah,
fact
it's
that
the state and what it is.
it's a state highway.
Typically, what I've done in some cases, certain periods of time, I'll go back down to 50 and come back that way, and it winds
Yeah.
up being more convenient, I'll just say.
Yep.
So.
I agree. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, how does this impact like a new facility being built, like a strip mall or?
This has no impact on that. Basically, this does nothing to how much to water production or sewer conveyance. This is strictly more a building that's, again, for administrative, storage, and operations people. So it doesn't have anything to do with treatment or conveyance.
Any other questions?
No, thanks for coming,
All right.
Steve.
Thank you.
Steve, Frank, thank you
Appreciate it.
very
Anytime.
much. Okay, we'll move on to item B, Cologne Fire Company flashing beacons. Mike?
Yes, we received a letter from Atlantic County. This original beacon out in front of Cologne Firehouse was put in with a grant that the county received. I don't know how many years ago, but quite a few years ago. It now needs to be replaced. They're willing to replace it, but they're not willing to do anything after that. They said they'll pay for the replacement cost, but after that they want us to take over the maintenance and responsibility of it. I spoke with the fire chief, and he said it is a valuable tool for them to have that out there, which pretty obvious that it is. So,
We have any statistics on maintenance?
no,
No?
we haven't done it, so I don't know what it would be. Can't imagine it being much, you know, for years after it's brand new. They're asking for us to commit to it, and then do a resolution later, but if we want to do it, they want us to give them a call, so they would do paperwork.
How long's that beacon been there?
I don't know. I don't know, but it's,
Because I feel the next step will be, we'll replace it the next time.
next time we'll have to replace it.
Yeah.
Well,
So we're taking ownership of it.
Yeah.
They're going to replace it this time, but we own it.
That's what they're proposing.
Okay.
how many years did this exist? This, the present flashing beacon?
I don't know. They don't say in their letter, and I don't have the history on it.
Committee, what's your pleasure?
Yeah, I agree. We should go ahead with it.
You need a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move forward and let the county replace the existing beacons, and we assume maintenance of it thereafter.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call for this, Bob?
You do?
Read it, please.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
Number 4, public hearings, we have none. Number 5, introduction of ordinances. Public hearings will be held on December 17th, 2018. A, ordinance number 1889, 2018, an ordinance amending Chapter 276-15 entitled Towing Fee Schedule of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, and the State of New Jersey. Mike, you want to review this a little bit for us real quick? Just so everybody understands?
Yes, at the last meeting, some research was proposed or put in front of the committee, and some rates were recommended, and I believe that's what's built into the...
It is.
The recommended rates were built into this ordinance.
Okay.
With the exception of Hamilton Township towed vehicles, on the suggestion of the chief, we made it a flat rate of 100, regardless of where it was, and you know, in or out of the county, as opposed to the $140 rate for an individual. And it hasn't been increased in quite some time. So
Right.
it's consistent with the discussions that we had at the last meeting.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to introduce this ordinance.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. Public hearing will be on December 17th, 2018. B, ordinance 1890, 2018, an ordinance for the conveyance of 2 temporary sidewalk easements to the state of New Jersey. Michael?
Yes, sir, Mayor. The state is going to be doing some improvements on 322 in front of the Woodlands, and they're going to be putting a couple of handicap ramps in on the sidewalk intersections.
Okay.
This is just a temporary easement. They'll need it during construction, then they won't need it anymore. They're going to pay us $600 for the temporary easement. I had Steve take a look at it. He's okay with it. Doesn't impact us in any way.
All right,
So,
very good. Anyone have any questions?
No. Move that ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on ordinance 1890, 2018. All those in favor signify.
We'll need a roll call.
Roll call, I'm sorry. Rita, please.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link? Mrs. Link?
She said yeah.
I couldn't hear her, sorry. Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
Thank you. Number 6, award of bids, contracts, and change orders. A, resolution approving the interlocal agreement of solid waste collection services and Atlantic County Institute of Technology and authorizing the mayor to sign the same. This is pretty straightforward,
Yep.
I would say.
solid waste collection. Yep.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Can you give me a minute?
Okay.
I would like a roll call on that.
Okay. Rita, please.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Bob, I would assume we'll do that for the rest of them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. B, resolution approving interlocal agreement with solid waste collection services with the Atlantic County Special Services School and authorizing mayor to sign same.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Seeing no questions, Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
C, resolution approving interlocal agreement with solid waste collection services with the Hamilton Township Schools and authorizing mayor to sign the same.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
D, resolution approving interlocal agreement for salt storage, loading, and purchase with Atlantic County Institute of Technology, authorizing mayor to sign same.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
A motion and second. Any questions? Mike, I just have one thing. Did they pitch in on building a new salt shed, or we're just gonna,
We just sell them the
out of the
salt.
goodness of our heart?
goodness
Aren't
of
we
our
nice people?
Yes.
Rita, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Got to cut a better deal, Mike, come on. Consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through L.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Just looking at this one here. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. Personnel. A, resolution approving a $5,000 salary increase for Stephen Roberti, effective 1/1/19. Mike, you want to elaborate on this a little bit?
Yes, this raise is being proposed because it's taken on the additional work of installing the Pro Phoenix and the maintaining the software and the hardware for 5 different fire companies as we go forward annually. So we're proposing it's extra additional work, so it's additional funding.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Rita, I would put roll call, please.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
B, appointment to fill 2 Veterans Advisory Board alternate member vacancies with 3-year terms, January 1st, 2019, December 31st, 2021. Personally, we are a couple weeks away from reorg, so I don't know why we would do this now. If we do it at reorg, we give everybody an opportunity to put an application in and move on it then. Do I need to make a motion to table, or?
You do.
I'll make a motion to table this.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to table the vacancies for the Veterans Advisory Board till the January reorg meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it. C, authorization to advertise for hiring of a Director of Community Development, AKA Phil's replacement.
I think we,
Mayor, I've had an opportunity to read through the paperwork for the job description, and I believe at this time it would be a good move to go ahead with this. And we always can look at the possibility of finding someone to fill one of the other hats that he has, because I believe Phil was a little overburdened with some of the work that was put on him, and possibly we need somebody else down the road, and we can do that, I believe.
Yep.
So I'll make that motion.
I agree with John, and I'll second it.
Okay. The motion and second, are there any questions? I'd just like to say I agree with John. I believe that, time is of the essence, and we need to, I reviewed it as well, and we can always look at it again later.
yeah, I feel the same. This is necessary to get on and get a person in there, and I think this is the right thing to do.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Excuse me. Number 9, A, minutes of the November 13, 2018 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a
Second.
motion and second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, the ayes have it. Minutes of the November 13, 2018 executive session.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second. Any questions? Rita, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes?
All yes and carried.
Thank you. C, payroll and bills. Bill list total $1,886,837.60. We have a motion to
So
accept?
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Number 10, reports. Mr. Administrator.
Nothing to add to my written report.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor.
Nothing.
Perfect. Mr. Engineer.
Yeah, Mayor and Committee, I have a few items. The
All right.
first is the 2018 road program. We're well into the program. You probably noticed the streets that have been completed. 32nd Avenue across from Atlantic Electric was completed. We put a drainage system in there. The drainage system worked very well on the first few rainfalls. We've had some pretty heavy rainfalls, and I've been in contact with Atlantic Electric. They have work to do on their basins, so I've been in contact with them, and we're insisting that they clean out their basins, because when their basins fill up, we tend to take some of the water into our stormwater basin we just put in.
Bill, when they enlarge the basin right adjacent to it, I mean, what prevents the water from flowing that way instead of flowing across the street?
Well,
Is the level or something?
it's such a delicate balance there. The water that comes off of 32nd Street into their basin, it's a very shallow basin, and then there's a connector pipe that goes about 600 feet to a basin in the back. And that pipe is almost flat, and that pipe tends to silt up.
Takes it.
When that silts up, there's nowhere for the water to go but back out on the 32nd Street. So
Is this where we had a problem before?
2 years ago,
Yeah.
I remember coming in, and I was in the audience that night, and I contacted Ken Mosca, and we met with his contractor out there, and they did some work, and it worked for a while. But it's just, they need to get on a maintenance program.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's not that difficult.
it's not that difficult, no.
Get the one up just a little, couple hundred feet up on the left that belongs to Chancellor Place that's like overgrown in there a little bit. You never see any problem with that one?
That's not taking on a lot of water, but you never do see a problem on that one.
Okay.
Steve, as with this wet season that we've been having, this rainfall, are there any other like red flags that stand out at you
There
right
is.
now?
There's one thing that I've noticed recently, it's not in my report. If you remember this spring when we did Main Street paving program,
Yeah,
there's a manhole at Linwood Avenue across from
Yes.
Guy Tunney.
there's water out of
That
that.
water's been seeping out of that for about a week now. So
Yeah.
I've been in contact with Daniel Nigro, who came down from Piscataway Verizon headquarters in the spring. I've requested he come back down here and we figure this out. That's Verizon manhole is some sort of it's some kind of bank that's supposed to separate out their equipment, and it's not supposed to be water, saturated, and it
Yeah,
is.
it
That
leaks.
manhole's a low point. It's sort of supercharged. It's artesian, and water just continually seeps out of there. So I'm in contact with them. I will get them down here to
Yeah.
solve the problem again or whatever.
In
Because
freezing weather, that would be an issue.
freezing weather,
Yeah.
it's going to ruin the roadway. It's
Yeah.
been running continuously the last 4 days.
Thank you.
Sure. The other roads that we paved are Babcock. We paved 4 intersections. Actually, there were 4 sections, but five intersections total. Demi Drive, which is the exit roadway to Oak Crest High School from where the tennis courts parking lot out to Cologne Avenue. We did a little bit of drainage repair work there. A lot of coordination with the high school on that work. Old Egg Harbor Road, you saw, was just substantially completed last week. We have 2 roads we're in the middle of completing right now. Harley Avenue, there's a section of roadway on Harley, and at 11th and Adams, there was a bad intersection with a drainage issue. That's been milled up. That'll be paved on Thursday. The remaining sections we have in the road program are Pennington Avenue and McKee Avenue. And talking to the contractor, it's day by day, week by week with the weather. I can't get a firm schedule out of them, but we will be talking in terms of, you can get a few days of good weather, he'll open the roadways up, he'll mill them, and he'll pave them. So he intends to finish everything this year, but we're just looking at, piece by piece. So, Tavistock contracts are working their way through the clerk's office, then they'll go to finance. We have to make sure the insurances are in place, but I've been in contact with Lou DeChico at Tavistock, and I've been in contact with Arawak. The first thing we're going to do are the fences around the 5 basins. It doesn't matter what the weather is, we can complete those fences, and if the weather, stays reasonable, Arawak said they're prepared to get in there, sometime in December and January and do the paving work. Construction projects, but Buffalo Pike, they informed me on Friday, and it's in my report, that the mattress store, which is a sleep center, they want to have the grand opening on December 20th at 8 a.m. in the morning. That's a Thursday. They would like us to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. I guess I'll coordinate the time and the date with Mike, and we'll get a ribbon cutting for the sleep center. And the Renaissance Drive connector road will be opened up the same day that they open up the sleep center. Starbucks will open in February 2019. They just have a lot of finishing work to do on that Starbucks. And that's why
You realize that the ribbon cutting, that'll be the most people you'll ever see in that mattress store, okay? You never see anybody go to them.
And one thing I know is that it is a mattress store, but it's a sleep center. And that's, they're high-end. They're very, very high-end mattresses. Sleep Numbers is what they're called.
Yep.
So generally, you don't see those stores. The only other one I know of is in Marlton by the Promenade, which is all high-end stores there. So that, to me, is a good sign. Even though it's another mattress store, it's not like the other mattress stores. So
What's the other store going in there?
They won't tell me, but they're spending money preparing the inside. They just won't tell me.
Kitchen's going in?
Part of it,
Is the kitchen going in?
I haven't heard or haven't seen that yet.
very good.
Outback Steakhouse progress is slow. I talked to the owner this morning. Jamie Butler called me this morning and said we will see some changes there very soon. So I'm expecting some changes at Outback, who, again, that store's supposed to open up. I recall them telling me in pre-construction that was supposed to open up in May when they closed the one in Egg Harbor Township. They're going to have to work around the clock to meet that
Yeah,
schedule.
it's not looking good.
Artist Walk still under construction. There seems to be a lot of residential construction out at Artist Walk. Ryan Holmes seems to be selling an awful lot of houses out there. Brett called me up about 2 weeks ago and requested the very first phase of Artist Walk, where the road comes in off of West Jersey Avenue. There's a section of sidewalk from their model home that was never put in, so I made a request that we're going to see construction of a sidewalk out to the bus stop on West Jersey Avenue over the next couple of weeks. Street opening permits, 5 were processed. Under miscellaneous, there's a couple of things that aren't in the report. I know Brett's been very busy. I've been in contact with Brett Knoll with all the flooding and the rain. It's been a pretty hectic couple of weeks for Brett. I got called in on a couple of isolated areas on Calhoun Street where there were 3 residential properties that sit sort of at the low end of Calhoun Street, and those properties are flooding in the backyard. So we've been in contact with the neighbors, the residents, trying to find some kind of solution to that. Roberts Avenue, there was another drainage situation on Roberts Avenue, and I've been in contact with some neighbors there. So just trying to work through these situations. I know the township doesn't take the position that we solve residential drainage problems, but we give advice and try to point them in the right direction where we can.
Oh, yeah.
One last thing, we mentioned we were talking about Old Egg Harbor Road at the intersection of Route 40, and there's a traffic problem at that intersection. Mike called me up last week, and I reached out to Kevin Dixon. The request that we've made to Kevin Dixon, and I know Kevin could do this a lot quicker than I can, is to maybe get some signs put up on the state highway that say, "Do not block intersection," because I know when the cars are backing up from the traffic light, they're blocking they're backed up, they're blocking that intersection, and
Yeah.
it's frustrating. I try to stay off of Old Hig Harbor Road, but Kevin's going to help us out with getting a permit to put up some do not block intersection signs.
They do the same thing on River Road,
The same thing on River
coming
Road.
right out there. You never can get through there.
Yeah.
So,
Kevin, can we put like a paint, you know how sometimes they do like a painted box, like don't stay in the box? Can we do that on Route 40, or is that the state has to do that?
Don't block the box.
Yeah.
The municipality is authorized to put up traffic control devices on the state highway with permission.
Can we,
Apply for that.
while you're doing the sign thing, can we just go for the full Monty?
Yeah.
All right. Anything we can do to help out there, that's a mess.
You can apply for both.
Okay.
You know, if they want to pick one or the one they'll let us do, tell them which one we
Yeah.
prefer.
Help us out a little bit here.
What about, some help from the police getting in and out at certain times?
Traffic control is always, helpful in critical time periods. I don't know if it warrants it in those times, but that's just a policy decision.
Okay.
Steve?
We have one more thing.
Okay.
About 3 weeks ago, at the planning board, we had BJ's come in with a small application for an application. It was a minor application to the planning board. We ended up tabling that application, and one of the concerns was the traffic and the opening of the driveways when you go over to BJ's and you go to Staples. There's a driveway there that's problematic, and we made a request that the owners come, and they're coming in tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and Kevin and I will be there. We contacted them after that planning board meeting 3 weeks ago. They know they have a problem. They want to work with the township to figure out a solution to that problem. And while we're there, tomorrow, we need to discuss the stormwater basin on the side of BJ's. That seems to be a problem that's been ongoing for a long time, and
Long time.
we told them we need them to come in and talk about that basin before they start filing other applications at the planning board. We'd like to see some action on the traffic, driveway, and the basin.
Because they want to put that propane unit out
They
there.
want to put the propane unit out there, yes.
I have a question. What is being built there on Mill and sort of Lenape Avenue? It's like at a curve, and there's a
Across from Norman?
yeah, across.
Yeah, that's
from-
a single-family house.
It is a single-family house?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm sure it's been figured out, would the runoff from that facility, impact the one at the bottom of the hill? Or have they sort
That's
of,
been reviewed, I mean, prior to my involvement, but that's been,
it's just a question, I'm
Yeah,
seeing it go up, and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that's been resolved?
pretty much every application, even a simple residential application for a house is looked at from a grading standpoint, drainage standpoint. There's a set of eyes on every application.
I can attest to that, having gone through it recently.
I was just sort of curious, as sort of coming out of the, the soil, so to speak. Wow. Okay.
That concludes my report.
Good, thank you, Steve. While we're on the subject of engineer, Kevin, I know you're not on the clock, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, but Anne Marie is here, and you sent us a letter. If you wouldn't mind elaborating on this a little bit.
You need a motion to alter the agenda to permit it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
A motion is second to alter the agenda. I can put it after, don't
All
matter.
in favor? No, you can do it now.
Okay.
But you
All
need
those
a
in
vote.
favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, the ayes have it. Kevin, if you don't mind?
Good evening, nice to see everybody.
Nice to be seen.
We just wanted to issue the report to the board as to the summary of the oversight of the basin. Starting at the beginning in November of 2017, there was a letter from our office indicating that plan that the applicant or the developer submitted to us for remediating that basin was acceptable with limitations on that acceptability. We said that we had some reservations about what they intended to do, and that they could proceed and remediate the basin according to their plan, but we reserve the right to require them to make that basin drain regardless of any approvals issued by our office for proceeding with remediation efforts on their part. They proceeded, they remediated the basin, and they completed that work, and it was functioning adequately for a few months. Up until about February of this year, we noticed that the basin was relatively dry during after rainstorms. We have inspected it. We had photographic evidence of that. And as of the end of towards the end of February, the basin started to not perform. At that point, we were about 10 inches of rainfall, which was about 4 inches above normal, approximately. And as the year has progressed, we've remained above average rainfall, and we've had pretty much intermittent rainstorms on and off quite often, with very little window, with the exception of July and August. And up till now, we are about 62, 63 inches of water of rainfall. Normal for this time of year is 38.
Wow.
So we are well above average rainfall, and that is affecting basins all over the township. You just heard your engineer talk about flooding issues and issues all over the township. And we are inspecting other basins that are having similar problems to this one. This one really hasn't drained since we started monitoring. We were asked this fall to look into this and to get something done. This committee directed me to communicate with the developer and make sure and basically command or demand of the developer that they address this basin immediately, which we did in a letter to the developer. We are set to meet with the developer later this week as to what their plan will be. If they are not forthcoming with a definitive plan, we will give them steps that we want them to take, which would be remedial efforts. And if that includes pumping that basin down, that's what we'll do. I have some concerns about that.
Is it a maintenance issue?
One of the problems that they have is if the basin doesn't drain, they can't get in there to maintain it. And this is where pumping the basin may lead to a solution in that regard. One of the issues I'm concerned with is the elevation of the groundwater table. I know before any of this started, one of the things that I did is I reached out to the design engineers, and I talked to them at ARH, and they said, this basin is going to be difficult. The groundwater table is 2 feet below this basin.
Oh.
So we're over 2 feet more than that in rainfall right now.
Right.
And rainfall and runoff and groundwater flow and the elevation of groundwater is not an even process. Okay, if you have an extra 24 inches, that doesn't mean the groundwater table is going to be necessarily 24 inches high. It might be less than that here and more than that over here based on the flow of groundwater as it flows underground. It's not well defined. It's not easy to sit here above ground and tell you exactly how that, but we know from throughout the township that the rainfalls that we've had have been well above average, and they are, in a sense, historically above average. We've had few years when it's been this high. I can remember one in particular, like 09 and 10, articles in the paper, basins flooding, similar elevation of rainfall, similar elevation of monitoring wells and groundwater elevation. So what we could be up against, and we will determine this, is if they try to pump out the basin and all they're doing is draining the groundwater table, it's just going to be more groundwater flowing into the basin. It could be a never-ending effort. So we'll see where that leads. If they cannot come up with a rational plan to do that, we will direct them to pump that basin out.
Yeah.
Now, there's a problem with that. Where's the water
Where's the
gonna
water go? Right.
You have to
Absolutely.
find a discharge It has to be done with permits as necessary, and it's gonna have to be done correctly. All right, so that's a process that it has begun with our letter to the developer, and that process will not stop until the basin drains, or the developer has done everything possible until such time as perhaps, if necessary, the township takes action if necessary.
Have you, you're going to meet with them later this week?
We are.
To your knowledge, none of them have been out there to look at
Oh, they're well aware of it.
they're well aware of
The
it?
developer is well aware of this problem. Oh, yeah,
good.
we've had ongoing conversations with them. We have not put them on notice, official notice, until this month, until November, last month. But the official letter went out, and it indicates that the basin has failed, and it has to perform. And so that process has begun. And they've reached out to me to have that meeting, so right after getting that letter. So they are aware of it. We've had ongoing conversations, and as I said, we've been out there and monitor that intermittently, occasionally throughout the year. We have about, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 pictures of that basin spaced out throughout the year. We've been out there during dry periods. It was dry during periods of July and August. And that's what you're concerned about. If it's absorbing the water during dry periods, it may not be the basin soils that are limiting. It may be the elevated groundwater during wet periods that's preventing it from draining properly. So we have to find that out. It's one of the things. If they have to put monitoring wells around the basin to demonstrate to the township that this is an elevated groundwater situation, we'll direct them to do that. That's one of the ways that they will be able to determine what the problem is. And we'll direct that to happen. Otherwise, they're in a situation where the basin's supposed to drain in 72 hours. And I don't know that we've seen a 72-hour period in this entire year in which we've had rainfall to a dry basin in which it's drained in 72 hours, except in July or August. And I can't really say that that's been the time frame for that drainage. So it's not working properly. Could be a groundwater issue. It could be subsurface soils.
It seems to me that even to get to figure out what's going on, you got to drain that basin and see what's happening, because if the groundwater is that high, it'll just seep right into it.
I agree, Mayor. And one of the things they can
Now,
do.
if you drain that basin, what about the one right behind it? You mean drain the entire thing?
When you say the one right behind it,
Well, right where it flows right through.
yeah, you drain the whole thing.
Drain the whole thing.
There's a lined pond, which is what they call the permanent pool of water. You wouldn't need to drain that. That has a liner underneath it. It's not supposed to drain. But all of the infiltrative surfaces around that, you would drain that to dry that out and re-establish those soils. I mean, one of the things you have is when you have a basin that's full of water in the summer, you get algae.
Right.
And you get other things in there, then you get siltation in there, you get suspended sediments, things full of water, the sediments are stirred up in the water, and you have mud that basically floats across the basin and covers the soil. So you could have any one of a number of things happening in there. And the main ways to look at that is find out what the groundwater is doing and get the basin pumped down and get the soils cleaned out. If you have to pump it, I mean. But I don't see any other way, because they're really not going to be, we can't really just wait for the basin to start working. It's not working.
Right. Okay.
So,
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. I appreciate you looking into this for us, and we'll look forward to a report from you after your meeting.
very welcome.
All right, thank you. Can you wait till public comment, please? Thank you. Be just a few minutes. Do I have to go back and open it up again? All right, we're going to move on to Township Committee. Judy?
I was pleased to attend the tree lighting and the lights of all the beautiful trees in the War Memorial Park. The kids were having a marvelous time. It's just one of those assets that town has really provided for the kids, and that I hope never stops, because it makes our town special, especially meeting with Santa and Mrs. Santa. The lines were a mile long, and it was just great. I would like to encourage people to say a special prayer for Rodney Grishard. He is in the hospital right now, and I think he's a very tenacious person and will be back on the dais probably in a couple of weeks, but I can't say that for sure. But he said, tell everyone I said hello, and I am doing fine, and so that's it.
Okay, thank you, Judy. John?
I just want to touch again on the tree lighting ceremony. The tree lighting ceremony was supposed to be on Saturday, but as everyone knows, that was a downpour day, really hard rains. It was a good move to move it to the next day, what turned out to be a sunny, warmer day. Whether or not that's responsible for the additional crowd, the fact that more people were available on a Sunday, we don't know, but the crowd was larger than it was in previous years. Some estimations are like 500, over 500 people. We run out of hot chocolate, we run out of cookies. So it was really nice. The choir was there. It was a nice event, and I want to give my thanks again to the Public Works Department for a great job. The men that did that job over there, it's amazing. And also the Dickens of a Holiday that just happened this weekend. As most of you know, the Dickens of a Holiday is an event that was put on by the Mays Landing Merchants Association. They made some decisions that they weren't going to pursue that event any longer. I personally like that event more than a lot of the other ones that they have because it's family oriented. It's for the children, and Santa's there, and I didn't want to see it lose that event. And so the Historical Society, the Presbyterian Church, and the library picked that up with our help from the Merchants Association to guide them through what needed to be done. It was a successful event, and they had a nice day and a good crowd, and the vendors were happy, and Santa was there. And it rained around 3:30, 4 o'clock, but most of the day the sun was out. So it's just an event that I think needs to continue. It always was a good event. And now with the help of the library, the church, and the Historic Society, they managed to take over and pull that off. So I want to thank them for doing that. They had 3 locations at the park, the library and the church, and they had 100 vendors between all 3 locations. To get 100 vendors out in this time of year is a really remarkable, and they did a good job pulling that off. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. Roger?
I just want to thank our local reporter, Charlie Pritchard, and thank him. At least this time in the Current, they put enough pictures about the tree lighting in, Charlie. We had several nice pictures in there, whereas we didn't have a one from the Halloween parade. So do we have to bargain for which ones get in and which ones don't? But publicly, I would like to thank you, because all the articles you write about the township are right on, and it's great coverage, and you do the township a great service by your reporting, and I want to thank you for that. You're welcome. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Roger. Just real quick, the Mays Landing Lakers had 2 teams play in a tournament in Pennsylvania this weekend. It was an entrance tournament into a tournament that is in Canton, Ohio at the Hall of Fame. So I know that the Pee-wees moved on. I don't know if you know, at the JV, did they move on also?
I think they did.
Yeah, so they're both, I don't know what the date is, but they're heading to Canton, Ohio. They're heading to the Hall, and I know all of them are very excited, and we should be excited for them. So when that's all done, we're going to honor them one way or the other. Win or lose, they've already won. We'll move on to public comment. Anne Marie, you want to come up?
Anne Marie Leone, 1305 Old Egg Harbor Road, Mays Landing, New Jersey. I want to thank Kevin for coming up tonight, but I kind of find it a little disturbing. I'm not getting notifications that this is, like, I'm not saying I'm a blip on the map, but I come to these meetings now just out of sheer, I need to come to them because I wasn't told at an engineer's report nor Kevin was going to be here tonight. So my neighbor happened to stumble into town hall to talk about his issues now and found out, and that's the only reason why I'm here, because I get the emails from Rita and I never see things on them. I just want to touch on a few things because I live there, Rob lives there, we see that basin every day. So I can tell you from the inception when they did that thing in November, it's never drained in 72 hours. I had to kind of chuckle back there because I have pictures, they're all on my laptop. I mean, I could do a PowerPoint presentation and show you probably thousands of pictures from last year to this year. I get that we've got a lot of rain, but I've also seen basins for larger places that are drained. And, the height of this basin at this point right now is the furthest it's been in a long time. My backyard is now almost a pond by itself for the amount of water I'm pumping out. So I appreciate the township's efforts. I appreciate that you guys are moving forward to get them in to talk and to get that. I'd like to see the fishermen stop fishing over there. I don't really find it funny when I'm told that, fish migrate to that basin. The whole point is if it drains in 3 days, they can fish in that rubber-lined area all they want. I did bring a copy of the resolution that was passed, I want to say 2016, in regard to that repair to that basin. Like I said, I live there. I've been out of work since May 30th of 2017 due to my injury at work. So I kind of keep well apprised of what goes on outside of the house, including construction vehicles turning my driveway and everything. I have not seen a maintenance contractor other than our lawn maintenance people. In that resolution, it has the name of a company that's supposed to come out. I have not seen them come out to maintain it. I don't know if they could possibly maintain it because, it doesn't drain. I did stop at the Soil Conservation Society to find out which permit they're going by, and honestly, there's 2 rules of engineering at this point, a 2-foot rule and a 3-foot rule. I don't know which one we're going by for this. If you go by the old system, it should have been a 3-foot. They should have had 3 foot of clearance between the groundwater table and the bottom basin. Now, under new regulations, it's 2 feet. But regardless of that, I just want to thank the board and the committee for pushing forward, having Kevin send out a letter, getting them to get this drained. I know back when they wanted their clubhouse, I can tell you they quickly pumped it out with 3 diesel pumps. I have pictures of that. And they pumped it into the woods and out the back, towards the creek back there. I don't know if that's something they can do again, but that is something that was done so that they could get the border around the all that brickwork around their community center. I've always told the township, and I still say it now, if anybody ever wants pictures or anything, I'm more than happy to share it, as well as data. My engineer's getting the data tomorrow from my monitoring well that's in front of my house. And
I had a question, Anne Marie. And I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. Fix, to be quite honest with you, that my nightmare would be kind of over. I'm hoping something comes out of this that's positive so I can either fix my house or know which direction I'm heading into. But I just wanted to send a thanks. I know that you guys have heard me up here many a time squawking about this issue. But just to give you an idea, Mr. Silva asked me last time if my neighbor had an issue. I spoke too soon. The water's now well past, if you actually look at my pictures and the perspective I've been taking them at, they have stakes at the end of the basin where it comes to a point. And the water's well past that. There's another stake that's there that's probably close to 3 foot. It's well probably a foot underwater under that. So I don't know if Rob wants to speak, but I know that he's now pumping out water, and he called me to make sure that my pumps didn't go out, because usually if one of my pumps go out, he gets water. Like I said, I just want to say thank you for staying on top of this, for moving forward. It's been a long time coming, and I do appreciate your efforts, so I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not a problem.
I'm Robert Erie, 1301 Old Lake Harbor Road. My basement is 18 inches higher than hers. I took a site off of it when I built my basement, because I built it shortly after hers, and I had them raise it 18 inches above hers. I'm at the extreme end of a overflow area. Right now, I've got 2 3/4 horse pumps pumping in my basement. I've got an 1.25 inch pipe hose going out, and it's shooting water 3 feet away from the nozzle. 2009, 2010, I flooded about 3 or 4 inches. I flooded about 2 to 3 inches this time. It was overwhelming for the one pump. I put a second pump in. It's down. My basement has a lot of damage in it now. I have things in there that are valuable, that are showing rust because the humidity is so high. I've got humidifiers running in it. I mean, this is just something, past week, when I started pumping, we had 3 or 4 days without rain. The level didn't go down. Generally, when she's pumping 4 different pumps. And probably somewhere around 12,000 gallons per hour. I'm pumping 2 pumps to 3,000 gallons each. Something really needs to be done. I mean, I have not received anything when they did any of the work in there. And they're just going along, they're still building houses in there, and they're not addressing this problem. And I can't go down in my basement. Right now, I'm a fall risk because of my surgeries. So I don't know what, I'm not gonna be able to go in my basement and do anything probably till the end of January. It's putting extreme hardship on my family. Thank you, I appreciate your concern.
Oh, like you heard, Kevin's meeting with them at the end of the week, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Ask one question, because my engineer and Kevin, I'll let those two talk if any more, but what am I allowed to have from the township in regard to this? Because in order for my engineer to even try to start to figure out something as well, you know, it has nothing to do with the township engineers and all that, but you guys kind of get forewarning of what they're doing, and what Rob just said kind of hit upon it for me.
Well, excuse me, I'm not following you. We get forewarning of what, who's doing?
Like when they're applying for permits and they're applying for things, they're not notifying us. There is regulation if you're within 200 feet of what they're doing work, you're supposed to get notified. And I kind of find it laughable because in that variance that I found, it said that people were notified. It was in the paper. I was never notified, and neither was Rob. So I don't know if there's a way, like, I don't even know if there's a way you guys can do it, but like when they're doing construction and all over there, I found out when I saw them there. I didn't find out because I knew. I did come in here, and the girls know me. I've been coming in here since 2005, since the first flood, so everybody in the building kind of knows me and kind of says, hey, by the way, did you hear about this resolution that was passed? That's how I found out about the possibility of construction. But I was never notified that they were doing anything to that basin or anything else. I don't know if there's any rules that I'm supposed to get notified, but from the way that variance sound, it is. I know like when I wanted to build the pole barn, I had to notify the homeowners association, I had to notify everybody, and I had to send it certified. I at least gave them a courtesy. It doesn't seem like it's flowing both ways. So when they're addressing things, maybe just reconfirm that if it's something that we're supposed to get notified, that we do. It just seems kind of weird that, you know, we're not being told something that's going to happen within 200 feet of our properties, and it could have an effect on us. So I don't know if that's something that can be addressed as well when they're talking to them, if they're going to do anything else, that we kind of get a heads up, because it's kind of, if I'm away or something's going on, or if I'm at work, hopefully I go back to work, but it would be nice to get a little forewarning for ourselves, knowing that something's coming in.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a requirement.
Would you like me to respond?
Please.
In any application that's going before the planning board or the zoning board, by statute, they have to notify all property owners within 200 feet by certified mail and regular mail. And they have to prove to the zoning and planning boards that they did that in order for them to proceed with an application. That's different than when they're applying for a DEP permit, a building permit, a construction permit. That's not regulated by the Municipal Land Use Act, and to my knowledge does not require any notice. Am I right about that, Steve?
That's correct.
So
when they went in for original approvals, certainly you would have to get notice for site plan approval, subdivision approval, or any kind of variances. If they went in for a use variance before the zoning board of adjustment, you would have to get notice. So if it's a planning and zoning issue, absolutely. If it's something other than that, probably not.
The only reason why I asked is it's in that variance from 2016 that all properties were notified and everything else, and I could tell you I was never notified.
Well, like I said, that's either zoning or planning, right?
And I have to look at it. I'm just going by what's in the actual minutes that people were notified, and it just seemed a little odd since the construction is Basin 1 and Basin 1 is across the street from both of us. So that's why I was asking, when they do these construction and they do this, in my instance, it's created, like I said, I was praying for the best, and unfortunately I've got what I got right now.
Well, when they did the remediation of Basin 1, Kevin, that wouldn't require notice, would it?
It would not.
I didn't think so.
That was not part of their application, it was a condition of their approval.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to find out because it just seemed a little odd. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to speak? Bruce?
Mr. Mayor, at the last Township Committee meeting, there was a award of a change order for Pennington Avenue. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was a little curious. But so I did a little research, and it was a change order to do curbs, replace sidewalks, stone driveways, asphalt aprons, brick pavers, remove and reset topsoil and feed, and 6-inch concrete driveway. What's sort of disturbing is that this is the street where Mr. Kurtz has his business. And the record shows that Mr. Kurtz voted for this, where I think when, if you're looking at the state ethical standards, even the appearance of voting to benefit yourself is in question. You should be recused. Mr. Kurtz, it appears that from the email chain he was involved in orchestrating this, or was involved in the engineering and the approvals. It's kind of disturbing. This being a change order. Now, the record shows that Committeeman Kurtz places business for sale or listed on September 10th. Just 5 or 6 weeks later, this change order was proposed and then voted on. Now, Township ordinance will show you that individuals have to take care of their own sidewalks. It's not the responsibility of taxpayers. So it's a little disturbing, even the appearance, let alone the actual vote and the participation in the email chain. So I'm a little disturbed about that, and there was no mention of that, no mention of a conflict of interest at the last meeting. Mr. Mayor, you were the only one that voted against it. I don't know why you voted against it, but you didn't. You didn't vote for it. So I don't know where the checks and balances are supposed to be, but it's disturbing, and I'm sorry to hear that that's going on here. So it's really disturbing. So thank you.
Mr. Kurtz, I would encourage you not to respond to that.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else from the public like to speak?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
The motion is second to close the public portion. The motion for adjournment is in order.
So moved.
We have motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it.